What's happening, Packer fans? Happy Thursday. Welcome into an all-new episode of the Pack-A-Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Thanks so much for being here today. I want to start off by thanking our two new Pack-A-Day podcast members, Roxanne Willis, as well as Jose Fernando Lopez Fernandez. Appreciate you guys checking out the Pack-A-Day podcast memberships. If you have not yet done so, make sure to do so because we've got brand new episodes every single week for members only, a live Q&A every single week for members only, a ton of other perks available, so make sure to check that out. Let's start right away, though, today with injuries. And it's a major topic, and there's a mix of some really good news and some not so great news. So let's start with the good news. The best news is that Christian Watson was a full participant at practice. He did everything. Remember, he had the big fall late in the game on the big contested catch. He was ruled to have potential concussion, or they were testing him for a concussion. I think it was back injury, chest injury, neck, just the whole gamut, right? So you were kind of fearing the worst. He kind of collapsed out on the field. Thankfully, he is a full participant, good to go. Matt LaFleur had no concerns. So that is great, great, great news. Additional good news is that Green Bay had 4 players who were limited, and most of these, like I said, are going to fall in the good news category. Kenny Clark practiced as a limited participant. When he goes off in a cart, that's never a great sign. We kind of hypothesized, hey, this maybe could be a week or two. We still don't know. Maybe it could be something that keeps him out this week, but the fact that he practiced in any capacity on Wednesday is a really great sign for his availability later this week. He was limited. Rudy Ford, who was out this past week, also practiced. He looked good in the very limited time that we were able to see him out in the practice field. He was limited as well. Elton Jenkins, remember, he's kind of been limited as of late over the past few weeks. Don't think there's necessarily any real major concern there. He did practice, but he was limited. And then Aaron Jones, still listed as limited, however, seems to be taking another step in the right direction. They were in pads, but he was not in the red jersey this week like he was a week ago. So that seems like another step in the progression. Matt LaFleur said he had no concerns with giving Aaron Jones another heavy workload this week if needed, but also praised A.J. Dillon for the work that he has been doing as of late. So limited, Kenny Clark, Rudy Ford, Elton Jenkins, and Aaron Jones. Full participant, Christian Watson. That all falls in the pretty darn good news category, especially with Kenny Clark, Rudy Ford, and Christian Watson. However, there are 4 Packers who did not practice in any capacity. The biggest one, and the one that maybe is the biggest cause for concern, is Jaire Alexander. And it's not with a back injury. He has a new injury, which is a shoulder injury. And remember, he has had shoulder injury issues in the past, and you never want to see him have that shoulder flare up ever again. I don't know if it's the same shoulder, different shoulder, we don't know. But he did not practice at all with a shoulder injury. So not great news there. What that means for his availability this week, we just don't know at this point. But it's noteworthy because Rasul Douglas is gone. And right now, Eric Stokes still on IR. You've got Carrington Valentine as your outside corner, Keyshawn Nixon in your slot. If Jaire's not able to go, your 2 options on the outside, Corey Ballantyne or Robert Rochelle. That's it, unless they pick somebody up off somebody else's practice squad. And even if that's the case, I can't imagine they're moving to the front of the line as a starter this week, especially when they weren't at practice on Wednesday. So this looks like if it's not Jaire, my guess would probably be Corey Ballantyne, but maybe Robert Rochelle gets some snaps. That is a big difference from Jaire Alexander going to one of those 2 players who are primarily special teams players, or at least that's what you would ideally like them to be at this point of the season. So a huge injury to keep an eye on there for Jaire Alexander, not just for this week, but who knows how long that could linger if it's anything serious. We don't know. Could be nothing. Could be back this week, but we just don't know at this point. John Runyon Jr. also did not practice. Remember, he left the game for a little bit, which allowed Sean Ryan to play. Runyon came back in, and then, Ryan left and then spelled Elton Jenkins kind of in garbage time at the end. But Runyon did play the remainder of that game, so that's a good sign, but he did not practice on Wednesday in any capacity. Now, if you were a member and you checked out my episode from yesterday of, is it time to start Sean Ryan anyway? This could provide a great opportunity for Sean Ryan to show what he's capable of in a full game if John Runyon Jr. can't go this week. I would not necessarily, I don't want to see John Runyon Jr. hurt, and I would just rather John Runyon Jr. play and play awesome. That would be great. But I'm not necessarily upset if this leads to an opportunity for us to get to see Sean Ryan in a full game and see what he's capable of. Yosh Nijman also did not practice, which would likely mean if he can't go, that Rasheed Walker will start at left tackle in his place. That even if, Nijman gets cleared later in the week, it's possible they just go with Walker since he practiced with the team all week. Who knows how they want to deliberate that and figure that out. But either Yosh or Rasheed is going to be the left tackle. If Yosh can't go, it's obviously Rasheed. If Yosh is limited all week and just kind of practices at the end, but they don't feel like he's 100%, easily could be Rasheed that way as well. And then Quay Walker, the other player who did not practice. Now, thankfully, Isaiah McDuffie had a great week last week. We'll see if he can continue that this week if Quay can't go. And of course, we're going to be monitoring all of these injuries throughout the course of the week to see if we get any improvements, if any players return from injury. But as of right now, Christian Watson, full participant. Kenny Clark, Rudy Ford, Elton Jenkins, and Aaron Jones, limited. Jair Alexander, John Runyon Jr., Yosh Nijman, and Quay Walker were the did not practice players. All right, let's jump into grades. Top 3 graded players. We'll start on the offensive side of the ball. Number 1, very excited about Elton Jenkins, plus 0.70 grade. His second consecutive plus 0.70 grade in the past 2 weeks. I was really hoping that we were going to see the real Elton Jenkins start to come around again because Green Bay desperately needed it on the offensive line. We know Myers is going to have his up and downs. We know Runyon's going to have his up and downs. We know Nijman or Walker are going to have their up and downs. We know Zach Tom's Mr. Consistency at right tackle. But if you have another player in Elton Jenkins who you're expecting to be a really good player and he has his ups and downs and it looks kind of like everyone else around him, then you're talking about major issues. He needs to be the leader, the consistent player, the guy that you can count in and down out. He's looked much more like that over the past 2 weeks. As I mentioned the other day, this is only the second time all season the offensive line as a whole graded in the positive. A huge reason for that was Elton Jenkins and his performance in this game. Highest graded player on offense, second consecutive week. Love, love, love to see it from Elton Jenkins. Great in pass pro, great in run blocking. These past 2 weeks, easily his 2 most complete games of the season. So he is trending in the right direction. Number 2 is an interesting one. Christian Watson, plus 0.65. PFF and I didn't necessarily see eye to eye on our offensive grades this week. They had some different players higher. I had different players higher. We've actually been remarkably consistent through the course of this year. This week was not one of them on the offensive side of the ball. The reason I had Christian Watson so high, first of all, he had the big time jump ball catch at the end of the game that really helped towards the end of the game just to kind of seal that game away. I thought that was a big time play from Christian Watson. I thought he run blocked very well throughout the course of this game. Jacob Morley over on Twitter posted a video, I retweeted it, of him blocking an edge player to allow the running back to get to the outside on a toss play. That's the one where Myers pulls to the outside. Great block by Christian Watson on that play. He drew coverage on multiple occasions away from, just taking 2 defenders with him down the field, which is definitely valuable for this offense. And then the other thing too is on the deep ball that Jordan underthrew, a poor grade for Jordan on it. That should have been a touchdown for Christian Watson on the play. He completely burnt his corner on the play, is wide open, and like I said, should have been a touchdown. We're looking at this as a much different performance from Christian Watson if Love just puts that ball on him for a 50-yard touchdown at that point. So I thought Watson did a ton of really good things in this game, really positive performance. I know it's just, the one catch at the end with the big contested catch, but I like this performance. I think Christian is trending in the right direction. He obviously needs to stay on the field, but this was a good one from Christian. All right, and then my third highest graded offensive player, surprise, Zach Tom, plus 0.45. Just steady as it goes. Mr. Consistency, positive grade every week. Like, we're getting into some Corey Linsley and David Bakhtiari territory. Not to that level. I think Linsley and Bakhtiari were both better players, but to the point where it's just a positive every single week. And you're getting to that just set it and forget it, sort of mindset where you don't even have to worry about Zach Tom. He's just going to do his job over at right tackle, and it's going to be a positive performance. He's been a consistent positive all year long for Green Bay. No different this week. So top 3 offensive players, Elton Jenkins, Christian Watson, and Zach Tom. And most importantly, awesome to see 2 offensive linemen on this list. Bottom 3 offensive players. Unfortunately, there's also 2 offensive linemen on this list. John Runyon Jr., again, my lowest graded offensive player. Brutal year so far for JRJ. Contract year. He's costing himself a ton of money, in my opinion, with the way that he has played so far this year. He has had some injury issues. I'm sure that's playing a part in some of his issues this year. As I've said over and over, I've expected him to have a really good year in a contract year, and it just hasn't come to fruition. As I mentioned in the members only Sean Ryan video, JRJ is starting to trend in that Byron Bell sort of territory, where if he continues to play the way that he has this year through the remainder of the season, his grade's going to be very similar to the Byron Bells of the world, which is never a place where you want to be in any sort of conversation with. I think it's time to go to Sean Ryan. It might be just due to the injury overall. He is by far and away my lowest graded Packer on the season so far. Not Rasheed Walker, not Josh Myers, not anyone on the defensive side of the ball. It is John Runyon Jr. by a solid margin. And if things don't turn around, Green Bay has to make a decision if they want to go in a different direction at right guard, especially due to the fact that he's not under contract next year and is very possibly out of his way or out of Green Bay and on his way out of Green Bay at some point next year in the offseason. All right, second lowest graded player. Another very familiar name on this list, Josiah DeGuara. I don't know what else to say at this point. Josiah DeGuara adds little to... there's no value add with Josiah DeGuara. In fact, it's a negative almost every single time you're putting him on the field. He had one nice block this week. He finally executed one of his, come across like cut blocks. It wasn't like a perfectly executed one, but he got it. He did it, which was great to see. But he's also still Mr. Inconsistency, missing blocks, not physical, not providing anything in the passing game. I've seen people are like, well, he's doing the dirty work, but he's not doing the dirty work well is the problem. I get there's a ton of added value for guys that are willing to do the dirty work, but you have to do the dirty work well. It's great if you're the guy that's going to be unselfish and set everyone else up for success. You need guys like that, unquestionably. But they have to do their job in setting other players up for success. Josiah DeGuara has not done that. I would start looking in another direction, whether they add, maybe a fullback to the roster and just like a legitimate actual fullback rather than the H-back stuff that's been going on. I don't know what it is, but I know that Josiah DeGuara isn't the answer. He hasn't been the answer in any previous season, and I'm not sure why you're wasting the snaps at this point on a player that's consistently providing negative results for you. And I don't like talking about a player that way. I would rather he just go out and perform at an awesome level and we could all celebrate in the magnificence of Josiah DeGuara. It just hasn't been good enough, and it sucks and it's unfortunate, but I do think it's time to at least give those snaps to a Tucker Kraft or whomever, just somebody at this point that can maybe do a little bit better job than Josiah DeGuara has done with it so far. And then my third lowest graded player is Josh Myers. Guys, I tried. I really, really, really tried. I tried looking at Josh Myers this week with a different lens, meaning Adam Stenavich, Brian Gutekunst both say he's playing the best football of his career. So I watched Josh Myers with a more fine-tooth comb than I even normally would, even though I'm obviously going through every player and every play. I just wanted to be like, all right, is there a way that I could see this in a different way to maybe like, all right, this was actually better than maybe I thought it was. I thought he did some nice things this week. The pull to the outside that I mentioned earlier was awesome. He got to the second level well. He had a nice seal block on the second level on another run. There were some things that he did well in this game. It is still far too inconsistent. And a negative 0.3 is not like this brutal grade. If that's your third lowest grade, you're usually in a pretty good spot. But it's still just kind of the consistently inconsistent Josh Myers. I don't think he's physical enough in the run game. I think he's inconsistent as a pass protector. I don't know. I just don't see it. And like I said, I tried with all of my might to look at it from a different lens, a different angle, a different viewpoint. I couldn't see it. And again, it's not a brutal grade. There were some positive things that he did. I don't think that this is like a Royce Newman-esque player where you're just like, this is a brutal player. I don't think he's in that same stratosphere of badness, but I do think it is still less to my liking than I think maybe Brian Gutekunst and Adam Stenavich are saying in the public, but I don't know. I'm still at a loss and still a little bit confused at the overall Josh Myers sentiment, but like I said, I tried to look at it in a different way. I still saw it the exact same way. And to be fair, last week I had a positive grade on him, plus 0.25 if I remember correctly. So he's like neutral over the past 2 weeks. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. That's a fine player in today's NFL. If you're neutral as an offensive lineman, you're totally fine. That's a starting caliber player. So the past 2 weeks, that's fine. But this week, still a negative grade, still my third lowest graded player on offense. Some noteworthy ones, Sean Ryan plus 0.35 grade. Really nice day from Sean Ryan in very limited snaps. Like I said earlier, I think we have to at least have the conversation, as I did in the members only video yesterday, about, hey, it's time to get maybe Sean Ryan a little bit more playing time and maybe consider John Runyan Jr. being the person who is taken off the field for Sean Ryan with the injury this week. We'll see if we get to see Sean Ryan in a full game. And if Ryan just goes out and plays well, to me, there's no reason you put John Runyan Jr. back. Zero reason that you would consider it. Now, if Ryan doesn't play well, then by all means, let's see if Runyan can bounce back. But if he goes out and he does play and start this week and plays great, that just needs to be Sean Ryan's job from there on out. Yosh Nijman, Rasheed Walker, both graded in the positive. Rasheed Walker, I had a plus 0.1 grade. Yosh Nijman, a plus 0.15. PFF, I know, had Rasheed Walker a little bit higher. I think he was in their top 3 on offense this week. I still have Walker rated a little bit higher than Yosh since Yosh took over, and then Yosh has kind of gone out of each of these games. I don't see a huge differentiator there. I know I might be in the minority. I know people still want Yosh to start over Rasheed. I still lean Rasheed. I don't think it's like heavily in Rasheed's favor. I certainly don't think it's heavily in Yosh's favor. I think it's certainly a debatable take to have one way or the other. But this week I had Yosh 0.05 higher than Rasheed, but it was close. And overall, since Yosh has taken over, I've liked Rasheed's grades just a little bit more coming in for the injured Yosh Nijman over the course of the past couple weeks. Let's get to the defensive side of the ball. Top 3 graded players on defense. No surprise here. Number 1 on the list, Carrington Valentine, plus 1.00 grade. Phenomenal in coverage all day long. Here's the thing. When you have Brett Rippon at quarterback, it's going to help you in coverage. The throws aren't going to be as crisp, not as timely, all of those things. That's going to help everyone on the defensive side of the ball in coverage. No question about it. But you just watch. Take the quarterback away. Take the throw away, whether the ball is thrown to the receiver or not. You just watch Carrington Valentine in coverage on these very talented Rams wide receivers throughout the course of the day. I thought Valentine was awesome. He closed well to the ball. He played with so much energy. He was aggressive. This is very fun corner play. The aesthetic that he had and just kind of the swagger and the confidence was so much fun. And as I said all week, I could feel his energy from the press box. That's the type of energy that he was bringing. So much fun out on the field. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be hiccups along the way. He's going to get beat with some double moves at some point. I guarantee it. But this was a fun one from Carrington, and he certainly deserved the top honors this week. Number 2 on my list, Jair Alexander. I know that there were a couple throws early in the game that he did give up. One of those maybe a little bit of an OPI. I don't know. Sometimes those things are going to get uncalled. OPI is not one that officials flag all that often, although Carrington Valentine did draw one later in the game. But I thought Jair was great, especially in the second half. I thought this was his best game in run defense. Of course, now he has an injured shoulder, which hopefully he doesn't shy away from contact again because of this injured shoulder. I thought he was really good in coverage in the second half. Again, you're going against some really talented wide receivers on the Rams side of the ball. He was aggressive. He was flying around. This looked more like the Jair Alexander. Matt LaFleur mentioned the same thing. When you talk about the Jair that's a Pro Bowl caliber player, we saw a much closer version to that this week, and it was badly needed. It was great to see him come back and play with that level of intensity and energy, and hopefully the shoulder injury doesn't set him back, and he can just get back out there and play like he did this past week against the Rams. Number 3, Colby Wooden, great fourth down stuff, but I thought he was really solid and consistent throughout the course of the game. You go throw on just about any Colby Wooden play from this game, and it was either a neutral or a positive grade. He was so just fundamentally sound, even as a run defender in this game. He was getting into the backfield. He was holding up at the point of attack. He looked like a totally different player this week. That's a really positive sign for a young player who has some talent, has some juice, and is really, I think, giving great effort so far this year. He's had trouble in run defense, kind of just getting blown off the ball a few times. I know Justice kind of talked about that early in the year. I thought he is showing much, much better, especially this week against the Rams in run defense than he has at any other point this season. And that's hopefully one of those things where we're talking about progress from young players, where it can be consistent and kind of carry over from game to game. Great game this week from Colby Wooden. So top 3, Carrington Valentine, Jair Alexander, and Colby Wooden. Bottom 3, Devontae Wyatt, negative 0.5 grade. Let me just say my other one too. TJ Slayton was the second one, negative 0.2. I didn't think Slayton had like a bad game this week. In fact, I posted an awesome play by TJ Slayton where he gets off of his block and chases down on the opposite side of the field, a stretch play for a 330-pound dude. Just an unbelievable play. I thought Wyatt and Slayton both got worse as the game went on, having to take on a little bit more of the load with Kenny Clark injured, which is kind of going to be expected. Those guys haven't had to shoulder that heavy of a load in the past. So that'll be something that's interesting. Now, Kenny practiced, so hopefully they don't have to play without Kenny. But I'm not concerned about Slayton. Wyatt did not play well in run defense through the course of the game and just didn't make his usual splash play or two as a pass rusher. So that's how you kind of get a negative 0.5 grade. Wyatt was really the only defender that I thought had like a bad day. TJ Slayton was more up and down, closer to a neutral game. And then Kingsley Enagbare, my third lowest graded player, negative 0.15, just didn't provide much impact as a rusher or a run defender. Not an egregious grade by any means. And again, if your bottom two grades are negative 0.15 and negative 0.2, you are in a really good spot. And Devontae's really the only one that stands out with a negative 0.5 grade. Some other noteworthy ones. I know a lot of people online were asking about Karl Brooks. Nice game from him, but I had a plus 0.2 grade. He had the phenomenal play where he reset the line of scrimmage like 5 yards in the backfield. And then, LVN was able to come and make the tackle behind the line of scrimmage. That was such a fun play from Karl Brooks. Batted down two passes at the line of scrimmage. So some good stuff. Still some, run defense specifically outside of that one play, still getting moved around a little bit, turned around. Didn't think he had his usual wins as like a pass rusher where he's like doing his great hands move and kind of getting into the backfield. So this was a solid, really nice day for Karl Brooks, but not anything that you're going to be like, whew, look at him with like a plus 1.0 grade or something like that. But nice, solid day from Karl. LVN plus 0.15. He continues to trend in the right direction. He had that tackle for a loss in the backfield, which was set up by Karl Brooks, but I think he consistently is playing a better brand of football, being more physical, setting the edge better, playing with a bit more intensity, and you're seeing him now become a positive player on a week-to-week basis rather than some of the negative grades that he was getting earlier. Is it the big breakout performance with 2 sacks and a forced fumble or something like that yet? No, we're not there yet. But it's trending right, it's getting better, and it keeps getting me excited for what's to come because you are seeing the progress from LVN week after week. Jonathan Owens, plus 0.55 grade. I thought his game was really underrated this week. Filled in the box consistently in the running game, played solid in coverage, no egregious errors, just a really solid veteran performance from Jonathan Owens. And then Anthony Johnson Jr., plus 0.05 grade, had the interception, had another pass breakup off of a big hit. Thought there was some plays in coverage where he could have been a little bit better, a little bit tighter, just maybe a little bit more assignment sure. But this is a really positive step for a rookie 7th round pick making his first start in the NFL to have a positive grade period, even if it was a slight positive, is a really great sign and hopefully a harbinger of things to come for the future of Anthony Johnson Jr. at safety. If Rudy Ford is back this week, it will be interesting to see, do they go with Jonathan Owens? Do they go with Anthony Johnson Jr.? My guess is they stick with Owens, but that'll be an interesting one, and just to see if Anthony Johnson Jr. does get some playing time in some capacity. So bottom 3 again, Wyatt, Slayton, and Enagbare. My noteworthy ones, Karl Brooks, plus 0.2, LVN, plus 0.15, Owens, plus 0.55, and Anthony Johnson Jr., plus 0.05. That is going to do it for me today. Shout out to our Hall of Fame and All-Pro members, Most Hated Minnesotan, PJ Wynn, John Wild, Shea Bradad, Arnaldo Espinoza, Jennifer Wright, Boom Handle, Donald Lee, and Lori Lord. Again, check out those Pack a Day podcast memberships if you have not done so yet. I will see you guys right back here tomorrow with a Mike Wall episode. Always can't miss. If you are not checking out the Friday Mike Wall episodes, I swear to you, you are missing an unreal episode every single week. So make sure to do that. Make sure to subscribe. I'll see you tomorrow. But until next time, and as always, go Pack-O.